Donald Trump has been hit with a shock. Everywhere he turns, he is being booed, mocked, and rejected. From the crowds in Tel Aviv to the arenas of New York, from the football fields of Europe to the digital streets of social media, the world is turning its voice against him. What used to be applause is now disapproval. What used to be loyalty is now laughter. And what used to be control is now chaos. This is the story of how the world began to boo Donald Trump and why that sound might be the beginning of his downfall. It began in Tel Aviv. Hostage Square was filled with nearly 400,000 people. They gathered under the hot evening sky to listen to speeches, to demand justice, to cry for peace. When Steve Witkoff, Trump's longtime friend and ally, mentioned Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the crowd erupted in boos. It wasn't just disapproval. It was a roar of frustration, a rejection of the lies, the corruption, the arrogance that had come to define both Netanyahu and his political partner in chaos, Donald Trump. Witkoff tried to continue, stammering into the microphone. "Let me finish my thought." But the people wouldn't stop. They booed so loudly that his voice disappeared under the weight of their anger. In that sound, you could hear years of broken promises, violence, and propaganda. That square in Tel Aviv was not only rejecting Netanyahu, they were rejecting Trump's influence, his style, his manipulation of truth. At that same moment, across the ocean, Trump was doing what he does best, pretending everything was fine. The government in Washington was shut down. Millions of Americans were waiting for help that never came. Workers were being laid off, offices were closing, and hospitals were cutting budgets. But while the country struggled, Trump was golfing. The official White House account even posted a photo of him on the golf course, smiling, waving, enjoying his taxpayer-funded vacation. Instead of addressing the crisis, the White House posted memes, emojis, and sarcastic messages. "We are doubling down," they wrote, adding a flame emoji and a fake smiley face. The message was cruel. They were doubling down on stripping health care away from 20 million Americans, doubling down on chaos, doubling down on cruelty. That was the voice of the Trump White House, not serious, not compassionate, not presidential. It was mocking, shallow, and dangerous. The economic situation was collapsing too. On that Friday, the cryptocurrency market lost $19 billion in one single day. Entire life savings were wiped out. Families who believed in Trump's crypto president myth watched their investments vanish. It was the biggest loss in the history of digital currency. And it happened as Trump bragged that the economy was strong. The stock markets crashed, the Dow, Nasdaq, and S&P all falling between 2 and 3%. 23 states entered recession-level conditions. American farmers, already devastated by Trump's chaotic trade wars, were filing for bankruptcy. Manufacturing slowed to a crawl. Construction was frozen. Tourism dried up. The American dream was fading into the background of an economy built on fantasy and lies. And yet Trump kept talking about numbers that made no sense. He claimed that under his leadership, America had brought in $17 trillion in revenue. He called it tariff money on a shelf. He said that money was ready to be used whenever needed. But when journalists like Daniel Dale from CNN fact-checked the claim, the truth came out. The so-called $17 trillion was a complete fabrication. The actual number, according to the Trump administration itself, was about $8.8 trillion, and even that was inflated. Many of the countries he claimed had invested the money had never confirmed any such thing. Qatar supposedly contributed $1 trillion, yet its entire annual GDP was only $166 billion. The math was impossible. The story was fake. Even worse, Trump's government continued to cut health subsidies and social programs. They claimed there wasn't enough money to help the poor, to fund hospitals, or to protect affordable health care. Yet they still found billions in tax cuts for billionaires, private jets, and luxury yachts. That hypocrisy defined Trump's America: endless rewards for the rich, endless suffering for the working class. Across the nation, foreclosure rates began to rise. 10 major cities reported the highest foreclosure levels in over a decade. Home buyer demand hit record lows, the worst since the mid-1990s. Student loan defaults passed 6 million borrowers. Credit card debt was at its highest point in history. Health insurance, car insurance, rent, everything was going up. Wages were stagnant. Even Trump's allies could no longer deny it. Marjorie Taylor Greene, one of his most loyal defenders, admitted in a podcast that prices were still high, wages weren't improving, and tariffs were destroying small businesses. Her voice trembled with frustration as she admitted that ordinary Americans were struggling. But Trump didn't care. He was too busy posting rants on social media about ice cream, bragging about himself, and claiming he deserved a Nobel Peace Prize. Then came the images from inside America's immigration system. Video footage showed ICE agents pinning down a 15-year-old girl. She screamed, "Get off me! I'm a 15-year-old girl!" She wasn't resisting. She wasn't armed. But the officers pressed harder. Watching that video, millions of Americans were horrified. It was the symbol of everything wrong with Trump's regime, a government without compassion, without restraint, without humanity. Trump's America had become a stage for cruelty. And now the world was responding. The boos started to follow him wherever he went. At the U.S. Open men's final in New York, when Trump appeared on the big screen, the crowd erupted. Thousands booed as he smirked and saluted. The sound was so overwhelming that broadcasters were instructed to mute the audience microphones to hide the embarrassment. But the videos went viral anyway. At the FIFA Club World Cup final, Trump was invited to join FIFA President Gianni Infantino on stage to present the trophy. As soon as his face appeared on the screen, the audience of tens of thousands began booing. He tried to smile, to wave, but the reaction only grew louder. Players looked uncomfortable. The ceremony fell apart. Eventually, organizers had to escort him off the stage so the players could continue celebrating without him. That was not leadership. That was humiliation on a global scale. And still, Trump seemed unaware. He believed the cheers of his rallies were proof of global respect. But rallies are not reality. Paid supporters and choreographed crowds cannot hide the truth. Outside the walls of his echo chamber, the world was laughing, rejecting, and resisting. Across Europe, Trump's image has become a symbol of what not to become. Populism without substance, nationalism without wisdom. Economists across the continent warn that Trump's trade wars have damaged not just America's economy, but also the global supply chain. His tariffs on steel, technology, and rare earth minerals have created ripple effects that hurt everyone. Countries like Germany and Sweden have started to shift away from U.S. imports out of protest. In the United Nations, Trump's speeches are remembered not for diplomacy, but for arrogance. His February proposal to move Palestinians into Jordan was described by experts as reckless, immoral, and destabilizing. It echoed the worst moments of 20th century displacement. Instead of peace, he offered provocation. Instead of vision, he offered vanity. Even allies like Israel are divided. Netanyahu may smile beside Trump in photos, but inside Israel, hundreds of thousands are protesting him. They see through the spectacle. They understand that Trump's so-called peace deal is just a temporary ceasefire, not a real solution. When asked about a two-state solution, Trump shrugged and said, "You'll have to ask the people who did the deal." Those words showed everything. He didn't even understand what he was pretending to negotiate. The truth is that Trump's worldview is simple. He thrives on chaos. He believes conflict makes him strong. But that illusion is breaking apart. From his economic lies to his foreign policy failures, everything he built on bravado is collapsing under the weight of reality. What makes the global booing so powerful is that it's organic. No one told people to do it. It isn't scripted. It isn't political theater. It's emotion. It's raw human response. It's people saying, "We see you and we reject you." When the crowd in Tel Aviv booed Netanyahu, it was not just about Israel. It was about a larger fatigue with men like Trump, men who think power gives them immunity from truth. When fans in New York or London boo Trump, it's not just dislike. It's exhaustion. They are tired of the lies, the cruelty, the endless self-praise while ordinary people suffer. And while he still holds rallies where supporters chant his name, the difference is striking. Outside that echo chamber, the noise has changed. Around the world, those boos have become the sound of awakening. They are a reminder that propaganda eventually collapses when reality becomes unbearable. Trump once said he could shoot someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue and not lose voters. Maybe he was right about his base. But he forgot about the rest of humanity. He forgot that outside his small circle, there are billions who can see clearly. In the end, the boos are not just for Trump. They are for what he represents: greed, arrogance, and disregard for truth. They are for every worker laid off, every child locked in a detention cell, every patient who lost health care, every farmer who went bankrupt, every student crushed by debt, every immigrant treated like an enemy. That is why the sound of booing has meaning. It's the world's verdict, not in a courtroom, but in public squares, stadiums, and streets. It is justice in its purest form, spontaneous, emotional, and collective. Donald Trump's shock is not that he was booed. It's that he finally realizes he cannot control the narrative anymore. No amount of fake numbers or social media posts can silence what the world now knows. His slogan has shifted from "Make America Great Again" to "Don't worry, we will survive." That alone tells the story of a man who went from arrogance to desperation. He wanted admiration, but he found rejection. He wanted to dominate headlines, but now headlines dominate him. He wanted to be remembered as a strong man, but history will remember him as a warning.